welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Steam gets attacked by cyber terrorist, and by cyber terrorist, I mean script kiddies, and Crytek is downsizing. Why, yes, Crytek is still around.
Speaking of which, Star Citizen gets wood, and not the fun kind, and Xcom gets AMD support, because the community does what AM don't.
I'm Ben Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, doing this nightmare fuel all under the Linux, joined every week by the man up north, Master Svag.
Bah humbug.
And, Space Portugal's not with us tonight, man. He's like, nah, man. So he just didn't love us this week. But he'll be back for the New Year's episode. But together with us on this special Doctor Who's Eve is Shatrealm Dynamic, helping us form that last little bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we all like to play, so what's going on in the week? What's on in our life organs? I didn't do much except spend most of the pre-show resetting all the audio, because if you watched our Wednesday show, we had Josh Walrus on. It was pretty good. If you want to hear about AMD talk and all that fun stuff, go check that episode out.
Yeah, I finally got around to go watching Rogue One, as my cup plainly says, which does not floweth over. Also sliced my thumb open this week, which was fun. I was riding on a bus, and the driver doesn't know how to operate brakes, so as I'm going to stand up, I put my hand on something to brace myself, and I jerk forward and give myself a nice little slice open. I've been changing the Band-Aid about once every 2 hours for the past couple days. So it was fun. Also with the game we were going to review this week, which is a platformer, and this is my button mashing thumb. So I bleed for you people. Don't you guys say otherwise.
Well, one thing we probably need to put the brakes on is the horse, because it kind of had a rough day the other day.
Yeah, the horse is looking like it might need a little lube after some of the business it got this week. It's the Steam update.
Anyway, let's go right into it. Steam.
Whatever. Yeah.
All right. Steam is slowly coming back online after an apparent DDoS attack coming from PC Games In. Now, it did come back up, and I know the fucking world lost its mind, Steam sale and all of that. They have a little update on this initial down. They said a self-proclaimed cyber terrorism group called, what do they call themselves? Phantom Squad. Yeah, they're like, we did the DDoS attack and blah, 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 blah. Okay. That's the thing. But what I'm genuinely more perturbed about is that Steam can be taken down by a bunch of script kiddies. Who the did not see this coming, man?
I mean, Valve's perspective on security has definitely improved over the past couple of years, with people constantly ragging on them and busting their frickin' software. But, I mean, it's not the forefront of their focus, which is, I guess, haberdashery with the sale of hats and gloves and whatnot. Either way, though, I'm not surprised that some script kiddies took it down, because, hacking tools have gotten better and easier to use over time, and it's only going to get worse. So that Johnny 6-year-old who feels like he wants to be a big man and terrorize people trying to buy their video games for dirt cheap can launch up Metasploit with a pack of pirated modules and bring down Steam. But I mean, yeah, it sucks that it happens. It was only for a couple hours though, I think.
Yeah, but every time Steam goes down for 2 seconds, or if it goes down for maintenance, people flip their collective shit.
Oh yeah, they have a freaking conniption fit. It's kind of crazy. It's, oh no, I can't buy my video games.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things. I didn't notice, because I kind of looked at the sale just to touch on the topic of the sale. I was like, I don't really see anything here that's that great a deal.
See, I was at work. Someone had brought up a game that they were playing. I wanted to check if it was out on Linux. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, Steam's down. I just figured it was just extra traffic from the winter sale. Later in the day, I found out, oh yeah, they got straight up attacked. Mm. So, yeah.
Well, Australia took a swing at them as well.
Oh yeah, they did. They're fined. So Valve got fined $3 million. Is that $3 million US dollars or Australian dollars? Because that's like 3 million pesos versus $3 million. There's kind of a critical difference there. But yeah, we talked about this a while ago, because Valve did not have a refund policy and led people to believe that there was no such thing on Valve. That goes against Australian consumer protection laws. and there was an ongoing court battle. And yeah, the federal court found them guilty, hit them with a $3 million fine, which is if the money they would make from that 2-hour period where the Steam sale or where Steam was down during the Steam sale, they'd probably make that money back. So it's just a little smack on the wrist. But you're not a fan of some of the other provisions that the court ruled as well.
I want to get this right. It says Steam must now introduce a compliance program and place a notice. That should be a notice. Bad grammar, people. In size 14 type on its Australian web zone, informing customers about their rights. I was like, that's a bit nanny state, son.
I don't know. I'm all for getting people to actually read the shit that they're agreeing to, but consider like your average web font is about 12 to 11 points. So this is like a big, ugly bit of block text in the middle of the screen. If it was just like normal or just, by the way, here's a little pop-up, review our freaking refund policy, that would be sufficient. But of course, the courts don't understand how websites work, least of all web design, and therefore they make demands such as these. But you're right. You're right in the sense that it's not going to happen until Valve starts getting the squeeze from the Aussie government.
Well, I mean, it's very much typical of Valve when you agree, because, you know, like with all things Valve and Valve time, Valve doesn't do shite unless something forces their hands.
Agreed. So, but you know, speaking of hands, you might have mangled yours trying to unplug or plug in a Steam dongle on your Steam Link. Turns out you didn't need to. Isn't that right, Ben?
Hey, man, I just went through this, and here's a little PSA I read. This is on our Steam on the Reddits, and I said dongle. So did we all. But yeah, man, you do not need to put that little Lusatron device. And when I say Lusatron, it was like it'll disappear if you blink too hard into your Link. It's built in, and that's kind of neat. Honestly, I was not surprised at all that people did not know this. It was not made clear to me that that's how this device.
No, it didn't really seem like it would be. It makes sense that it has it integrated, but I don't think anywhere in the documentation does it say you don't need to have the little dongle plugged in. So actually, we're going to have Empty on. I was going to ask him about that to see if he knew, but. That's not the case. I am a proponent of wired for life, though. So
definitely wired for life, man. It's old school gaming plus batteries. Batteries can eat a bag of dicks.
Oh, fucking hate batteries.
Arma 3.
Oh yes, Eon ports everywhere. You might remember we actually talked about this. I think last year in around. I don't know. Someone's going to correct me. I don't give a shit. But yeah, Arma 164, I believe, is out via Linux beta thanks to the, I'm not going to say fine folks at Virtual Programming, but they are folks at Virtual Programming. I like reading through some of the FAQs on Arma's site. It's like, will this work in multiplayer? It's like, well, it's using the same binary, but shrug emoji.
Yeah, that's definitely something you got to take with a grain of chainsaw when you're talking about virtual programming. Yeah, give them a year, maybe 2 years, and they might get a port sorted out proper. But yeah, just looking at that is like, oh, yep, here's all the limitations. And by limitations, they mean bustedness. Because it's just going to be a janky type thing.
Credit where credit is due, though. They actually say straight up, yeah, this is not native. So, I mean...
Well, yeah, definitely good on them. And this just makes me wish and dream harder and longer for full DX11 support to show up in wine, man.
Oh, yeah. And, that was the other thing I wanted to ask Empty about was his favorite Overwatch wife, but whatever. Speaking of porting, Feral has a new patch out for XCOM 2, which is nice because they asked for stable Mesa drivers for Ubuntu, and they got them. So y'all AMD users get some of the out of the box support. You don't need to screw around too much with compiling Git releases of Mesa to get the latest OpenGL support on your AMD card.
And they also added controller support for XCOM. Now, I know you have the Steam controller, the Areola controller, and I'm just thinking, if I tried that with my Xclone controller, that was like, that's the reason this genre doesn't exist on consoles.
Oh, pretty much. Like that was the thing when they were promoting the Steam controller hard when XCOM 2 came out for Linux. They're like, oh yeah, try it with Steam controller. It works great. No, it doesn't, Brad. I said as much during the review. I mean, it works kind of, sort of, but like selecting stuff is kind of iffy. I wouldn't want to try to do that with like a plain old Xbox controller, but that's just me.
Okay, patch time. We got origami, anagrammy, origami, maybe, but they have assassin mask, and it's a new patch, 1.06. It's out, and I saw this, and I was like, oh, look, DLC. That's crap for mask. Then I clicked on it. It's free DLC, so it was like Good Guy Game Company. Kind of a fun game, and one thing they've also added, a couple of small fixes, but one thing you might want to notice is they put hard mode on it. So they, updated some pathfinding, and they made it a bit more difficult. And we kind of liked this game, didn't we?
It was all right. It was just sort of limited in what you could do with the assassinations. Like, you couldn't hide bodies until you unlock the ability and whatnot. But I mean, it's good to see development being done on this game after it's released. So many Unity games just sort of get shoved out there and left alone to rot. So it's nice to see that there is a company out there committing to at least some modicum of support. And I mean, the masks look all right. I guess it's just to make your guys look a little more distinct in the multiplayer, right, which they actually fixed a couple bugs with. So that's all well and good.
That's pretty cool. And if I do remember, this was a very performant game too. With the cell shading and whatnot. Yeah, it ran pretty well. Okay, so we got something about orcs.
Orc. Yeah, this is Children of Orc. It looks like a big ol' hex crawl / adventure game.
Turn-based, no, probably.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the interesting things is I made a little boo-boo. They said you need a CPU supporting AVX, and I went and like, what the fuck is an AVX? Advanced something extensions.
I just like the minimum Windows is OS 7.
7. Yeah.
All right.
I have 7 installed on my computer. I tried to upgrade to 8, but it just kind of broke stuff. And apparently 9 never got released.
But hey, man, this thing's free, so
yeah, it definitely is. Though you need a Sandy Bridge or newer CPU to play this game, or a Bulldozer later AMD CPU. So sorry, MT, you can't play this game.
And also does include in-app purchases. So maybe probably has a mobile version floating around somewhere, but
probably
Descent. It's back.
We're going down, bitches.
Hey, man, this is one of the first Unreal Engine 4 games released for Linux, and it's still in early access, and if we're going to be perfectly honest, it still performs like something that should very much be in early access, at least over here in Vinland. But they got some new things for it. What were you talking about? The video player? What?
Yeah, so it's all the way at the bottom. They have a little known issue section, which is usually good to see in the patch notes. Like, hey, here's the stuff that we broke. And the video player for Linux is not allowing players to view the intro video and has been disabled. So, I mean, it's a feature, right? I don't want to watch the intro video. I would like.
Oh, okay. That's just something they've added. And I was like, doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would like that to be a default. I don't care about intros. I want to get to the game. It's like, it's the worst thing about like any AAA game you play, where like you're stuck watching this intro video for a minute and a half, and you're just like, I just want to play my games.
There's nothing like 13 seconds of unskippable bullshit. No, when you said intro video for that, I was like, this game has a fucking intro video? I've never seen an intro video, and I played this game for a couple hours. So it's something they added, but, it's just a patch release. I didn't get a chance to test it out. The biggest issue I still have with this is texture pop-in with Unreal Engine 4, and it's kind of sluggish still, but they are making progress, and it keeps on chugging. But I think that's going to do it for the horse this week.
Oh, yeah, no. Speaking of chugging, Crytek started chugging, or Star Citizen started chugging a new type of Kool-Aid. We're going to talk about that in the news section. So stay tuned.
And welcome back to the news. This is normally where we sit down and talk about drivers and stuff. But before we get into that, Jordan, we need to thank the beautiful people who keep us loud, live, and independent.
Yes, they drive our efforts, you might say, because there's no driver news, so we're gonna go with that. But yeah, you can join that legion of psychopaths by heading on over to LinuxGameCast.com. We got our lovely little support the Sozen link. Mm-hmm. That's it. Those are words. I talk English good. God damn it. We got lovely Amazon affiliate links. You can click on them. Just go through your normal purchasing process, and we get a little cut. It doesn't cost you anything aside from what you pay Amazon for. I don't know, a backyard full of scorpions. Maybe that's one of the things you could order. Who knows? But if you want, we also got some PayPal links. You can do a one-time donation or recurring donation. But the best way to support us is to head on over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast, where we have 92 of you psychos giving us money every week to put out lots and lots of content for you. And it's hot, smoky, steamy content. We're $154 to our $175 goal, where we actually get dedicated Tuesday and Thursday streams. So you get to see us prototype new shows or just cocker out and play some video games. Maybe we'll actually start that Rocket Cars League we're talking about. Maybe that'll get us that'll push us over the edge. Oh shit, we get to play Rocket Cars more. Yeah, give them money. But yeah, we got some lovely people to thank. Renee K up their pledge. So thanks a lot for that. We literally could not do this without you. We're just talking about how we can't have show titles like Pedro Eats a Banana or Jordan Dies for Our Sins with accompanying show art without your support.
Boy, we can now, though. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, getting that new goal, that would be awesome. That'd be a great little Christmas present or Doctor Who present, because I don't say Christmas, I say Doctor Who, because that's the only reason I remember that date. But, let's get into this. Because Crytek is closed. Don't cry. There's a heaven above you, baby. We'll refocus on its core strengths of development. All right, basically, Crytek's been having money issues, not paying employees for pretty much all of 2016. It's been a known thing. And, well, you know what? It turns out that, their focus on free-to-play games and VR that they kind of bet everything on were just dumb and dumber ideas. But I think what they're doing is smart. And there's we're going to try to reorganize it. We're going to close down some studios and tighten things up. But yeah, why do we even talk about this here? Because there is technically one CryEngine game on Linux called Snow that hard locks my box. Giggity.
Locks your box. It hasn't locked my box, but it's still locked at 720p and doesn't really control particularly well. And I don't think the Linux version has been updated for some time. I could be wrong. Send some hate mail to Pedro@LinuxGameCast.com if you have a say of that otherwise. But I mean, yeah. Well, they're struggling because they were trying to find a good model to get people to use their engines in light of Unity having a personal edition out there for free and Unreal just having probably the best licensing scheme on the market for a big title game so far. So yeah, they're really struggling to distinguish themselves from many of the other engines out there, and I guess they really couldn't. Maybe if they focused a bit more on that Vulkan backend, they could make some inroads into the mobile market.
Well, I was definitely thinking, why don't they just sit down and relax and just fart out another Crysis game and be like, hey guys. And they did, they haven't really open sourced their engine, but it's source available because I don't need that hate mail showing up next week. But I think it was too little, too late, and they took some wrong turns, but that's a thing. I mean, it's not like they got bought by Amazon, right?
No, they just had their technology getting forked, as it were. So yeah, this is from VentureBeat.com, because we got to mention that there are show notes and links to these stories in our show notes as we cite our sources like credible journalists. But anyways, we got a report from from VentureBeat.com that says that Squadron 42 and Star Citizen are switching over from CryEngine over to Amazon's Lumberyard, which is in itself a fork of CryEngine with some additional Amazon integration. Then I think it's a little more than Twitch, though. You probably have some EC2 and S3 caching stuff.
Well, yeah, as well as some. It's definitely got some of that back end stuff built in with all the Amazon goodness, and Amazon's just like, hey, they gave them $50 million in order to do this, and Amazon's going to support it. And I'm kind of thinking, just want to get this out of the way. Star Citizen, okay. Here's the dice. No amount of flipping out and saying, yeah, it should come to Linux because just call them your damn tits. Those motherfuckers have not said a word about delivering a Linux port. And it's kind of getting to the point to where it was like, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Now they're over with Amazon. Amazon is kind of dedicated, and they're like, hey, we're going to have this out for Mac and Linux, their version of the Lumberjack.
Lumberyard, yeah.
And, saying this is really switching engines is kind of a misnomer because I'm pretty sure, everyone that starts this is like, you know what, CryEngine might not be around in 2017, right?
Well, as I mentioned before, having a lot of the backend stuff like EC2 and S3 for your gigantic, ambitious MMO isn't a terrible idea because you're going to need resources, and Amazon has lots of them, so that's definitely a plus. But when you're switching engines in the middle of game development, what that's clearly saying to at least us, the outside observers, is we've run into a bunch of technical hurdles that we think our tools cannot overcome, and therefore we need to change tools in order to solve fundamental problems with our design, which generally doesn't really pay off. It just results in games being in development hell for years and years and years, people losing interest, hype being generated to the point where they can't live up to it. And I mean, Star Citizen was a really, really ambitious concept. It was basically the spiritual successor to Wing Commander. They got a bunch of the old Wing Commander 3 people to show up for the single player campaign. They're spending millions and millions of dollars, and it's probably going to flop if it even ever comes out.
Well, that's something I was going to say. Back to this, like, do you think we'll get a Linux port? And I was like, I don't think it's ever going to get released. Yeah,
baby steps. Let's work on actually getting the game to a playable state before we talk about, are we going to get Linux support?
Right. It's still a better love story than Carmageddon, but hey, man, something
it's a better love story than Overgrowth.
Oh,
shit. Yeah. So Lugaru, you might remember it from the very, very, very first Humble bundle, back before Humble Co. was a thing, and it was Wolfire Games. And one of the first games that Wolfire put out was Lugaru, which I actually really enjoyed. It was a rabbit fighting simulator where you sort of run around and beat the crap out of people. And it's open source. They had an open source version a while ago because they hit a goal with one of the Humble bundles. But you still needed the game assets. Now they have released those as well. So you can essentially build the game and play it yourself if you don't feel like forking out the $2 that it probably costs on the Humble store. I didn't even bother checking it because most of you already have the game.
But yeah, it has been updated.
Y'all got any of that Overgrowth?
SDL2? Yeah, Overgrowth. That's never going to happen until they run out of money at Humble. Two things. One, I remember when this first came out, what was it, like the first bundle or the second bundle?
Yeah, very first.
And having this game on the list was amazing. It looks so good. And I went back and revisited it. And I was like, this thing's fugly. But it's still an interesting, ninja bunny rabbit type fighting game. I was surprised how small this thing was, man. I mean, the download was tiny.
The guy developed it by himself in high school. Like this was like his passion project for a while. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like Ben said, you got the SDL2 updates, so your controllers and whatnot will work. And yeah, we're anything to not give money to Overgrowth.
What the Linux Nero just said in chat realm is Donnie Darko. Yes, that needs to be done with this. We need more of that in this game.
The rabbit from Donnie Darko just beats the shit out of stuff.
Aspire have a non-update update for us. As Aspire, they say bad news. No Civ 6. What is it? 6 now?
Civ 6, yeah.
Yeah. Winter patch or cross-platform, and no news on the feasibility of the Linux until after the holidays. And at this point, Aspire, you're just trolling for some more cookies.
I don't know. Should I bring up the point that they're making Christmas messages when their logo kind of looks like a Jewish star? Oh.
Only Jew would do that. Civ 6. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Civ. I hate to say it because I know it's like when somebody finds out that somody else is into Civ, they're like, yes! And, you're either in that or out of that. It'd be good to see the Linux port, but this is just a non-update update. They're like, we don't know about the feasibility. It's like, okay, but that's good to keep us updated, but I don't know.
Maybe something a little more substantial?
I kind of feel like Aspire is kind of backing off on the Linux stuff, while Feral's just like, let's just, all the Linux things.
Well, let's just shit out ports because they run great, like Deus Ex or Total War or whatever. But up next, and to close off our new segment, we got some super stonking great. Cars, yeah. So this is from Ever Racers. It's from SSG Games, Super Smashing Great Games. They have a demo out now. Pedro was playing this a while ago with the devs. It's basically an open world driving MMO where you just try and race people and you can go off tracks and whatnot. The graphics are really simple, but I think that's part of the aesthetic of just like your car getting destroyed in some fun and crazy way. So if you're a fan of Homerian epics and the type that Pedro pukes out at the end of the review segments, you might want to check this out because he was really fond of this.
With it. One thing I couldn't find on their web zone linked from that tweet was where to download it. Hit us back if you locate that mysterious gem. Another thing that made this game interesting is basically your suspension is based on just jelly physics. So it's completely insane and frustrating, but in a fun way. And it does have multiplayer that functions. And they're currently on Greenlight. Yeah, so head over there. They got the Linux port. And well, they do have Linux support, we know for a fact. And, maybe say, hey guys, maybe we want you on Greenlight.
Yeah, give him the old LGC plug in the butt. So, coming up next, we don't got a game review this week. That's a bit disappointing, but we do have some lovely hate mail that we will read on air to you. And then Savage.
Okay.
Pedro's not here, so I get to do it this week. We're doing some hate mail. If you want to send us some lovely things that include disparaging remarks about our mothers, racial epithets, just general vitriol, you can head on over to LinuxGameCast.com, click on that contact button. We got a drop down so you can send your hate mail to Pedro, Strider, and Ben, or myself, Pedro and Ben. Yes. And yeah, you can do some math and send us some hate mail. We got some mail from y'all this week. First one's from Freyr. Again, the Asgard High Council, not too keen on us. He says, greetings from the Guild of Asgard's gamers, you gregarious canoe and gliding penguin girlfriends. That's some bad alliteration there, Freyr. Shame. I suggest that the IRC channel and server information be added under the videos on the YouTubes and on the contact page on LinuxGameCast.com to help potential newcomers partake in the live party. Postscript. The show is hilarious when watched with closed captions enabled, especially Weekly Daily Wednesday. I'd imagine that's true, considering that not one of the people on Weekly Daily Wednesday is a native English speaker.
No, I mean, it's fucking adorable, and sometimes when Strider's talking, you can just see it give up.
Question mark.
Hey,
but yeah.
I mean, we definitely doing the live stream. I don't have a problem with that. Maybe that's something we'll do. Get some more people in the IRC. Let people in the super secret club. So
yeah, special sauce.
Yeah. What do you think? You think we should do that?
I think it's a good idea. We can get more people. Chat Realm expands, and we become a more complete Cocaine Voltron.
All right.
So I think it's a good idea.
Sounds pretty good. So, Jolly writes in. I'm going to paraphrase the middle part of this, Jolly. But I'm going to get the gist of it. Not sure if you already noticed this, but last month Patreon updated their TOS. I didn't really get time to read the changes till recently and noticed this interesting bit. And basically, this is something that Patreon says. He's like, you can't use raffles or any prizes based on a chance as a reward. So, yeah, what is it? I think this is to avoid lawsuits against state gambling, stuff like this. Didn't want it to affect LGC. It does affect you guys. Might have suggested democratic voting style loophole via the chat room voting subscribers. You could even call it Comrade Votsky or Trump-o-matic. Okay, not that Trump, the other Trump, shield tablet. We don't use it like that, fortunately. Thanks for the heads up, man. I mean, people looking out for us like that. I do appreciate that. Our way of gives are for patrons. They're not, it's like, join our Patreon for a chance to, we'd never pull some BS like that because that's like super sketchy. And a lot of times, our way of gives aren't just for Patreons. They're just, do a retweet or something like that. But, yeah, cool. Jordan, get thoughts?
I mean, there's actually a similar law on the books in Canada. They get around that by forcing the winner to answer a skill testing question, so we could just as easily do that as well. Because if it works in Canada, it just doesn't work. Nothing works in Canada.
Yeah, we could definitely be some Rob Ford. if you got some ideas, anybody wants to send some stuff in, like you have better ideas for our key gives away English. Jesus. Because I
Too much sports water, or not enough.
Not enough. Because I think at last count I have 9 pages of unredeemed Humble Bundle Steam keys.
Oh yeah, no, that dock is huge.
Right. Oh no, I'm not talking about our dock, man. I'm just talking about like personal Humble.
Oh dear God.
Right. So we'll do some stuff like that. But I think on that bombshell, I got to learn what Clarkson says at the end of the new Top Gear
Grand
now.
Tour.
Yeah, so I can continue ripping that off. Anyway, cue the music. You can always find us live around 9:30 Eastern Time on the YouTube. Sometimes we go to Twitch. We stream games on Twitch, mostly there. But if you want to scream back in my face, Oregon, I'm at Vinstone on the Twitter nets, plus Vinstone on the G pluses. And more often than not, I will get back to you.
And you can find me on Twitter answering and bungling every single skill testing question out there at The Burning Fool, or plus Jordan Svung on Google+.
Okay.
There's no invisible Pedro or Empty this week, so it's us.
It's a damn shame is what it is, but hey man, we kind of pulled off a show. It's better than nothing.
Sort of. I mean, better than nothing is kind of the scraping the bottom of the barrel. It exists, right? It's not. It's better than not existing. Did we just go into Anselm's argument? Shit,
man. It's good enough for government work, right?
It's good enough for the presupposition of a omnipotent deity. 5 dudes.